Okay, good evening. I am Kathleen Farrell, the moderator, and on behalf of the St. Louis Metro League of Women Voters and the 22nd Circuit Court of St. Louis, we welcome you to this Know Your Judges Forum. We have 18 judges up for retention on the November 3rd ballot. We'll be hearing from them in two parts of the forum, 9 from 7 to about 8:10, and then the final 9 from 8:10 to 9 o'clock. That's so everybody has equal time. Although the justice system is such an important part of our government, few citizens are familiar with the judges that serve them. We're most grateful to the 22nd Circuit, especially Mr. Tom Gross, the Public Information Officer, and the judges who all embraced this opportunity for participating. Here's our plan for the evening. Mr. Gross will begin with introductory remarks. Then each judge will give a 2-minute introduction. Then I'm going to ask an equal number of questions to the judges that they will answer in 1 minute. And Ms. Mary Jo Geary, our league time leader, will notify you at the 30-second remaining mark, and then when your time is up. Unlike presidential and vice presidential debates, I will strictly enforce these limits. So let me introduce Mr. Gross and we'll begin. Mr. Gross has served the 22nd Circuit as the Public Information Officer since 2014. He brings extensive experience as a journalist and executive communication strategist in the St. Louis area. He has been a chief executive for Express Scripts and Fleshman Hillard, as well as a writer and editor at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Mr. Gross.
Don't see Mr. Gross. I think we have to start with the introductions of the judges.
Okay, thank you very much. And if he comes back on, we'll get him on at the end. So without further ado, we're going to start with the introductory remarks. And Judge Michael Colonna, Your Honor, you are first.
B starts before C. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I'm not doing it that way. I mixed it up, so you have to pay attention.
No big deal. I'm Mike Colonna. I was appointed back at the end of October last year. So I've been a judge for almost a year. My current assignment is Division 25. It's an associate circuit division bulk criminal. So for the most part, we do misdemeanors, misdemeanor bench trials, arraignments, a lot of the bond motions, and just kind of a lot of status checks. What's going on with your case? Do you need a lawyer? Do you have a lawyer? Can you afford a lawyer? We do a lot of, well, not in the job description, we do a lot of kind of pre-screen to see if someone's eligible to be represented by the public defender's office, try and steer them into that direction if we feel that they're indigent. We can also hold indigency hearings to appoint the public defender. I kind of describe the division as an initial traffic stop division. Are you ready to go to trial? When you are ready to go to trial, we'll send you over to one of the circuit court judges who can get you a trial date and finally get your case taken care of. But it's all criminal. Prior to being a judge, I guess I've been a lawyer since '94. Did civil litigation for about 4 years out of school. And then for the next 20-something years, did almost exclusively criminal law. With a little sidestep in the Missouri General Assembly, I represented part of South St. Louis City for about 8 years from 2008 to 2016 down the Tower Go South neighborhood. This is my dream job. I love it. I feel like it's another way to give back to the community.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Gross, what we're doing is we're going to continue with the introductions and bring you in at the tail end of them to explain what you're going to explain. So, Judge Hogan, Your Honor. You want to unmute? Unmute.
Now can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. First, I wanted to thank everyone as well as the League of Women Voters for giving all of us this opportunity. I am presently in Division 3 of the Circuit Court, which is one of the general trial divisions. And so we hear both civil and criminal cases. I was first appointed in 2005 as an associate circuit judge. I served each of the 7 associate divisions during that time, and then was elevated to the circuit bench in 2012. Since being elevated, I did 2 years in domestic, where you just hear divorce and child custody cases, and then did 1 year in Division 16, which used to be the criminal assignment division that assigned all of the cases out for trial after arraignment. And then most recently, I am now in Division 3. Before becoming a judge, I was a prosecutor prosecuting domestic violence and sex crimes, first in Jefferson County and then at the Circuit Attorney's Office. After that, I went to juvenile and worked for what was formerly known as Voices for Children, but is now called St. Louis City CASA, representing children who are abuse and neglect cases that are in the foster care system in the city of St. Louis. Like Judge Colonna said, I very much enjoy each of the different aspects of our job and all of the different areas of law that it exposes us to, and enjoy working with each and all of my colleagues.
Thank you. Judge Dowd.
Well, good evening. I want to echo what Judge Hogan and Judge Colonna said, and thank you, the League of Women Voters, for having us. This is a wonderful opportunity to meet the voters. And I also want to congratulate you on your 100-year anniversary. So well done. After law school, I graduated from St. Mary's University in San Antonio, Texas. I joined the family firm of Dowd and Dowd. Since it was a family firm, they had to hire me, whether they wanted to or not, I think. A short time there, then I had an opportunity to work as a county counselor in St. Louis County from 84 to 88. Then I was fortunate to be work as an administrative law judge in the Workers' Compensation Court for 12 years. And many of those years I served as the chief ALJ appointed by Governor Carnahan. That was tremendous work. I was really enjoyed my time there at the Workers' Compensation Court. And I think it really provided a nice framework for the work I'm doing now. And in 2000, I was appointed by Governor Roger Wilson as a circuit judge, and I've been retained several times and hoping to be retained once again. I think I've served in every circuit court division with the exception of juvenile court. I also served as the presiding judge for our court approximately 10 years ago. Like Judge Hogan, I'm currently in a general trial division in Division 2.
Okay, Judge Dowd, your time is up.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All righty. Judge Llewellyn, Your Honor.
All right, good evening. So I was appointed in January of 2018. So I'm going on approximately 3 years. When I got on the bench, I was in a general division. In that division, I handled criminal cases and civil cases. Then about a year and a half after that, I went into juvenile court down on Vandevenner, where I handled delinquency cases, care and protection, adoptions, and also termination of parental rights. And this year, I've started a stint in family court. And in family court, I handled divorces, paternity, child support, and we do bench trials, not jury trials. And we do a lot of status conferences. Prior to getting on the bench, I was in the public defender's office for the bulk of my career. My last year before getting to the bench, I was in the circuit attorney's office for about 1 year. And Just one thing to know about me, I really don't like profanity. And if you have any question, if that's true or not, come into my courtroom. I have a sign, and the sign says, there is a time and a place for foul language. This is neither the time nor the place. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. Judge Rother, and I want to apologize to you, Judge Dowd. The memory of last night's debate is still too fresh in my mind, and I jumped the gun pretty fast with you. So,
That's quite
Judge
all right.
Rother.
Hi, my name is David Reuther. I am currently an associate circuit judge in the 22nd Circuit. I've been a judge in the City of St. Louis Circuit Court since January of 2018. I also would like to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting me to speak and for hosting tonight's event. I'm currently in Division 16, where I preside over family law matters, primarily adult and child orders of protection, commonly referred to as restraining orders. I also handle divorces, name and gender changes, and modifications of prior family law decrees. Since 2018, I have completed assignments on the Associate Circuit Civil Docket, which includes landlord-tenant cases and debt collection matters. I have completed a rotation on the Associate Circuit Civil Jury Docket, where I presided over 5 jury trials to completion, as well as led the circuit's land tax sales dockets. I've also substituted as needed in the criminal dockets. I am currently a member of the Supreme Court's Committee on Access to Family Courts and the 22nd Circuit's Public Education Committee and the Ad Hoc Committee to explore moving from centralized criminal docketing system to an individualized docketing system, which the court approved and implemented last year. Prior to being appointed to the bench, I served regularly in St. Louis County as a court-appointed advocate for children in all manner of abuse and neglect situations. I grew up in South St. Louis County in a union household, attending Our Lady of Providence Grade School, Lindbergh High School, St. Louis, and then St. Louis University Law School. In addition to my strong roots, St. Louis roots, I've also lived and studied in Germany, the United Kingdom, and Hungary, where I served as a research assistant in the British House of Commons and as a law intern in the Constitutional Court of Hungary. Before taking the bench, I was a law partner in the firm of Medler and Reuther LLC, where I primarily focused on family law litigation. Thank you again for inviting us all to speak tonight.
Thank you very much. Judge Perkins, Your Honor.
Good evening, all. And I'd also like to echo thank you to the League of Women Voters for giving us this great opportunity to appear before the public, as well as a great organization. I was appointed to the bench on October the 11th, 2017. So I'm coming up on my 3rd year. I am currently assigned to probably if one of the most busiest dockets at this time, which is Division 27. In Division 27, obviously we're in a worldwide pandemic. I am quite busy hearing a bunch of eviction cases, landlord-tenant matters. We also hear collections, credit cards, debt, small claims, lawsuits, things like that. Prior to getting in Division 27 at January the 1st, 2020, I did a year in a Division 24, which is a misdemeanor criminal division, where I conducted jury trials throughout the year of 2019. Prior to that, my first year on the bench, I was assigned to Division 14, which is the family court division, which, as a couple of my colleagues said before me, is the adult abuse division, divorces, child custodies, things like that. Prior to being appointed in 2017, I owned a law firm for about 10 years, the law office of Lynn R. Perkins here in the Central West End in the city of St. Louis, where I live. And I handle mainly criminal defense matters, as well as some personal injury cases. I owned my business for about 9.5 years. Prior to that, I served 5 years in the St. Louis City Public Defender's Office as a criminal defense trial attorney. where I like to say I learned how to practice law and be a lawyer.
Okay, your time is up,
All right, thank you very
Judge
much.
Perkins. Thank you very much. And last but not least, Judge Wright, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll be the last person to say thank you to the League of Women Voters. However, my mom is a lifetime baker, so I've already ordered a cake, so I've got one up on all the rest of you. My name is Clinton Robert Wright. I've been a judge for almost 3 years. I'm in Division 21. It's general trial, jury trials. I've been in that sort of division since I was appointed. I have 3 adult children. I'm not chasing them around anymore. Attended Washington University School of Law here in St. Louis. As my practice, I started out as a public defender here in the city of St. Louis. Continued to do a lot of criminal work. Also did a lot of civil work, and later in my career, did a lot of domestic work as well. As my general trial work, I've had many trials. Not so many this last year, but we all know that we have a lot coming next year. So this COVID has been unusual and difficult, but we are working hard together to make sure we get to the next step. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now we're going to go back.
Ms. Farrell, I hate to interrupt. I think that I'm in the 7 to 8 hour and I just didn't want to get skipped.
Likewise.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I will simply adjust and write down that all of you were done and then go to who's in the 8 hour. Is that all right?
If you'd like me to stay for the 8 o'clock hour, I can do that as well.
Okay. That's fine. Let me make the adjustment. I had a.
You know, I am sorry, but I can't stay for the 8 o'clock hour. Is there any way I can do my time right now?
Sure. What I will
Kathleen, I
do-
think both are on my schedule at 7, so let's do both of these.
Yes. So let's go ahead and do the people we've got here, and then we will go to the rest of the judges at 8. So we'll make the adjustment, okay? But Mr. Gross,
Okay.
I'm sorry that you
Right.
you weren't on, but I in essence said that you are a highly experienced, skilled, and splendid fellow. So you missed the introduction, but that's the gist of it. If you'd
Well,
like
thank
to make your remarks.
Well, thank you very much. And on behalf of all 31 judges of the St. Louis Circuit Court, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And I also want to thank the League of Women Voters. The work that you do in keeping voters informed has been critical in maintaining a functional democracy for more than a century. I am the Public Information Officer for the 22nd Circuit Court. And I'm here to explain the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan and why we have all these judges on the ballot and how you can tell if they're doing a good job. The answers lie with the Missouri Nonpartisan Court Plan, and that's a prototype for the nation established in 1940 to keep politics out of the selection of judges. Under the plan, judges in 6 large Missouri circuits don't declare a party, raise money, or run against other candidates. In fact, they're prohibited from campaigning. Instead, nominations for judgeships in our court are made by the Judicial Circuit Commission, which includes the Chief Judge of the State Court of Appeals Eastern District, 2 local lawyers elected by the Bar Association, and 2 non-lawyers appointed by the governor to staggered terms. When a judicial vacancy occurs, the commission reviews applications and interviews each applicant in open session. They nominate a panel of 3 to the governor, who selects one. Circuit judges are appointed to 6-year terms and associate circuit judges to 4-year terms. Judges must stand for a retention vote after their first 12 months on the bench and then at the end of their term. When judges are up for retention, an independent statewide Judicial Performance Review Committee analyzes them. It's thorough. They survey lawyers and jurors who came before each judge and evaluate the judge's writing and courtroom manner. Then they decide whether the judge meets overall judicial performance standards. Their findings are at yourmissouriJudges.org, and I commend them to you. That's yourmissourijudges.org. Now I'll turn it back over to Kathleen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And don't worry about the confusion. Professors and judges always know how to deal with change, right?
All right.
So we're going to move to the segment of our program where you're going to be answering questions. And what I'm going
Kathleen,
to, yes.
we need the two other introductions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So Catherine Fowler and David Rother.
I believe we did those.
No.
It's actually me, Timothy Boyer, and Katie Fowler.
Timothy Boyer, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Judge Boyer. Now I'm confused as well, so you're gonna have to keep me straight.
Well, I want to, again, like everybody else, thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, and thank everybody who's here listening for taking the time out of their lives and their schedule to listen what we have to say. My name is Timothy Boyer. I'm a circuit judge here in the 22nd Judicial Circuit. I was appointed to the Associate Circuit Bench in August of 2016, and then to the Circuit Bench in November of 2017. So I've been serving as a circuit judge for the past three years. Like you've heard from some of my colleagues, I'm a general trial judge in Division 8, meaning that I hear civil and criminal cases, motions and trials on all of those cases. Prior to being appointed to the bench, I started my career in private practice, working for 2 law firms here in St. Louis, and then spent 9 years as a prosecutor with the Circuit Attorney's Office and a trial attorney, trying everything from misdemeanors and murders, and finished my career as the director of the White Collar Crime and Fraud Unit. They asked us to talk about why we became a lawyer. I guess it takes me back to the playground when I was in elementary school here in St. Louis, and they used to ask me to mediate conflicts, and they called me Lawyer Boyer. I think they did it because it rhymed, but it turns out that maybe they were predicting the future, because after graduating high school here, I went to St. Louis University, graduated from their law school, and became a lawyer, and the rest is history. But I'm truly honored to have this job. It was my dream job, and I'm very happy to have gotten it. And I'm humbled every day that I've gotten to be a public servant for this long. And every day when I walk into the courthouse and see my name over my courtroom door, I think that it's not my courtroom, it's your courtroom, it's the voters' courtroom, it's the people's courtroom. And I'm just lucky that you're renting it out to me and letting me do my job and try to make the courthouse keep working and keep going forward. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Judge Boyer. And finally, Judge Fowler, your honor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight, and thank you for all of the good work you do in our community. I was appointed to the circuit bench in November of 2017. I did my first 2 years in the family court, which was a wonderful opportunity to work in an intimate way with the families in the city of St. Louis. And now starting in January of this year, I'm in a general trial division, which I handle both civil and criminal cases. Prior to being appointed to the bench, I was a civil defense attorney where I handled a wide variety of sophisticated litigation, much of which was representing the doctors and nurses at Barnes Jewish Hospital. But in addition to my civil defense practice, I had the great pleasure of running a law clinic for women and children impacted by incarceration. It was through a nonprofit called Let's Start, which is very near and dear to my heart. And so that has been a great training ground for what I do now, helping families in the city of St. Louis who are struggling. In addition to my job, I live in Lafayette Square with my 4 children and my husband, ranging in age from 15 to 5. And I'm fortunate enough now to have 4 virtual learners, which is a lot of fun. And I am, this job is the honor of my lifetime. I can't tell you how much I love what I do. I get up and I say that almost on a daily basis. I love my job. I love serving our community in this capacity. So thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Judge Fowler. So now, Jean, if I haven't forgotten anything else, let's move to the next segment where I get to ask you questions. Now, I'm going to ask you questions in groups. So don't worry if not everybody answers the same question. I think everybody will get an opportunity to answer similar kinds of questions. And these are questions that we've heard in the community for quite some time now. And I think it would be illuminating for the public to hear your answers. So to make up a little bit to you, Judge Boyer, you're going to be first on this first question.
Okay.
We have 1 minute to answer. What is your average day like?
Well, you know, it's an interesting question. There's sort of an average day before coronavirus and an average day after. But typically I get up in the morning and I head to the courthouse around 8 or 8:30 and get ready for my day. Every day brings something different. That's sort of the plus and the minus of this job. When you're in trial, you sort of know that your day is going to be bringing in jurors, having the attorneys ask questions, and it's going to move forward. But trials are always unpredictable. So while you can kind of know where you're headed, you never know exactly where it's headed. On Thursdays and Fridays, we typically handle probation revocation matters where people who have been on probation and the probation officer is worried about how they're doing. We bring them in, we check up with them, we try to work with them. So every day kind of brings something different. You just try to get up, get prepared, be as ready as you can for what's in front of you. But when you have litigants and attorneys and witnesses, you can't always be prepared for everything that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Same question, Judge Colonna, if you want to add to that.
Muted.
Yeah, you need to unmute yourself.
That helps. There we go. Sorry. My day starts out, I've got a partner of 27 years, and every morning I kind of tell Dennis how excited I am to go into work, and he looks at me like I'm nuts because he doesn't enjoy going into work. And it just kind of reminds me how fortunate I am to enjoy my job. But I have one of those bulk divisions, so we probably have between 45 and 50 people a day that are on the docket. Again, most folks don't have lawyers. With most folks, it's their first experience in court, and they don't know what to expect. Let's be real, they're probably pretty scared about what's going to happen, and a lot of people think, you know, on their first court appearance, they're going to jail. So I get in early, maybe about 7:30, go through the docket, the listing of people who are supposed to be there to see if it's their...
Your time is up.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Sorry.
1 minute. I'm
It's the
glad
old-
we're all in this boat together.
It's the old, okay, thank you.
Okay. Judge Dowd, you're next. How about your day?
Well, thank you. As Judge Boyer said, every day is different. My schedule and most of the judges are controlled by the court schedule. So 1 week we'll be in a civil trial division, 1 week in a criminal trial division, and 1 week for miscellaneous. So if I'm in a trial division, look forward to handling a civil or criminal trial where we get to work with the jurors and picking the panel and trying the case. A lot of those trials go away on the day of trial, but there's always backup work. And one thing that follows all the judges around are the probation cases, which is a very difficult docket to handle. It's all of the individuals that you've placed on probation, and then you have to watch and make sure that they're following the conditions of probation, and if they're not, you can have a probation revocation docket.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We're going to switch questions, and we're going to begin with you, Judge Fowler, for this next question. And it is, how have you handled the challenges COVID has brought to the 22nd Circuit?
Well, I think I think we all have to recognize we're doing our best in a new and a different situation. And I think that requires us to constantly evolve and interpret the data, interpret the information, and continue to change and flow in response to it. So when we first started out in March, our dockets were fairly shut down. Since then, I've been able to hold all of my dockets. Today I had 8 hours of Zoom status conferences. So I think that I've been able to find a way to still be able to continue to meet with the attorneys, and we're struggling. It's harder to meet with the litigants, but we're trying to find a way to meet with the litigants using the Zoom platform. And we're finding pros and cons to that. I think we're finding in some ways it's brought gifts, and in some ways it brings challenges. But I think that we continue to evaluate it and continue to change and grow.
Thank you very much. Judge Hogan, how about you?
To build on that a little bit, and like what Katie was saying, because we're both in trial divisions, I think in the beginning, there was about 6 weeks where all the cases just sort of got continued while everyone, attorneys, litigants, prosecutors, all the civil bar tried to figure out how it was that the courts were going to be able to handle it. Like Katie, since then, we've been able to schedule not just status conferences, but we've now hooked up machines in all of the jail facilities. And so we are able to do pleas and sentencings and those sorts of things, and some motions and bench trials. If both sides agree, they think that everyone's still getting a fair trial if it is taking place on Zoom, or we use WebEx. We still have not had any jury trials, and I think that's out largely of concern for the community until we can assure the entire community that we can provide a safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judge Llewellyn.
So I agree with my colleagues, and what I will say is, since I'm in the family division, my docket is mostly status conferences and bench trials. So as a result of COVID, my docket is almost exclusively remote. So all my cases are done this way. And with the Supreme Court changes in the rules, we're able to swear witnesses in by WebEx. And so I've had numerous bench trials since I've gone remote, have a lot more appearances by people who would not be there. I also handle a child support docket, and I'm having a lot more participation by people by phone since we've gone exclusively remote.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question, and we're going to start with Judge Perkins this time. Here's the comment and question I hear the most since I've moved to St. Louis. Some say that they are called to jury duty too often in St. Louis. How would you explain to them how important their service is?
Thank you. Well, let me say that my mother has expressed that very same sentiment to me. But what I like to tell people is that serving jury duty is a civic responsibility that all of us have as citizens of the city of St. Louis. We know and we acknowledge that it takes time out of your day, and a lot of people don't want to do it. However, we need people to do it, and our system of justice can only operate effectively if people are willing to set aside their personal time and come and serve the community. Without people willing to make such a sacrifice, then the whole justice system that we have will grind to a halt. So it is very important that everyone serve jury duty. Now, we know some people get served a little bit more than often than others, but that's because of the population of the city. And they try to space it out as much as possible, but with the smaller.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Judge Perkins. Judge Reuther.
I believe that serving on jury service is actually one of the only duties you have under the Missouri and United States Constitution. So I like to remind people who tell me that, as well as the jurors that appear in front of me, and congratulate them for discharging that duty. Following up on what Judge Perkins just said, our system of justice would grind to a halt if we could not have panels of our peers show up for these contested actions, whether they're criminal or civil. At the end of the day, we have a small metropolitan population of only 300,000 people, so it's a small pool of people to pick from, and we are a very, very heavy docket in terms of the number of cases that we handle annually.
Okay, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
finally, Judge Wright.
Thank you. With regard to being a juror, when you look at our Bill of Rights, many factors in that alone deal with our rights to a jury trial. And the most important part of that of all is that a jury of your peers. It's the one thing that makes us most unique in our judicial system. I agree that it is a burden. I think that our circuit works very hard to be as kind and decent to the jurors as possible, making it as comfortable as possible, not to bring in people unnecessarily. As a practicing attorney, I would constantly have friends say, hey, I have jury duty. How can you get me out of it? And I would be kind enough to let them know what the rules are, that they can change the date. And we're very liberal about helping people if there's a vacation or something like that. But there is no getting out of it. And for a while, even attorneys were allowed to be on it, which was great because it made the playing field more fair. But it is the most important thing to do. And I think we're very fortunate that we get to do it.
Okay, thank you very much. We're back to you, Judge Boyer. So here's a question for you. What has surprised you the most about your job?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think most of the people that are on the bench, most of my colleagues here were practicing trial attorneys or courtroom attorneys. And I remember being on the other side of the bench and thinking, come on, Judge, just make a decision. How hard can it be? Being on the other side of the bench, I don't think I'm surprised by it, but I'm sort of humbled by how important and difficult the decision making is. I know that I and my colleagues take time with every single decision we make to think about it, to think about the ramifications, to make sure we're following the law. Those decisions come home with me. Those decisions sit on my desk and look at me. Those decisions are things that I take very seriously and I wear on my sleeve because I know how important they are, not just to the litigants, but to everybody. So I guess I'm maybe not overly surprised, but I was surprised that when I got here, how hard it was to make the decisions and how important I felt they were to take my time and do it right.
Hey, thank you. Judge Colonna. Same question. What surprised you the most? You want to unmute yourself, Judge Colonna? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, thank you. I had to switch to my cell phone. My internet popped me off. I want to echo what Judge Boyer said. We, as practicing lawyers, I used to think that, judges knew everything. And why are you taking so long to figure out what's supposed to happen? You're a judge. You know what's supposed to happen. The reality of it is, there are a lot of situations that are not just first-time impressions, but we want to get it right, plain and simple. And we want to do it in a timely manner. And making that shift from being an advocate of your client, whether it's for the state, a defendant, or a landlord-tenant thing, to a judge, the neutral arbiter of what's going on, really compounds that. So, those are things that kind of keep me up at night. Did I do my job diligently? Did I do it in a timely manner? I hope the answer is yes, and that's something that I really spend a lot of time trying to do.
Okay, thank you. Judge Dowd.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is and what I'm surprised at, as we talked about, we ask a lot of our jurors that serve frequently in our circuit, and their dedication, their stick-to-itiveness throughout these difficult trials is just amazing to me, that they answer the call to serve and they see it as their civic duty and they perform it in a very special and professional way. I'm also not necessarily surprised, but I'm happy to see the lawyers acting zealously on behalf of their clients, but they can maintain a level of professionalism and civility towards each other and towards the bench under some very difficult, stressful cases.
Thank you very much. We're going to switch questions here, and we're going to start with Judge Fowler. And the question is, what is the most important quality that has to be present in your courtroom?
Well, I think that's a great question. But for me, I think that the quality that I am constantly aware of for myself, I am constantly honing, is patience. I think the most important thing I can offer the people in my courtroom is the opportunity to be heard and to be seen. And so it's important to me that everybody walks out of my courtroom saying, she heard me, she saw me, she listened to me. So I really work to continue to cultivate that so that everybody has an opportunity to at least say their piece. And whether the law supports their position is a different story, but at least they have the opportunity to be heard. But with respect to the people in the courtroom, I would say kindness. It's important to me that Division 4 is a place where we respect each other and that we listen to each other and that we're kind to each other. So I ask that of the lawyers who are in front of me on a daily basis, and I ask that of the litigants, and I receive that from the jurors and the litigants. And so I think, in Division 4, kindness it reigns, or I hope for it to reign.
Okay, Judge Llewellyn, did you raise your hand? Okay. All right, let's go to Judge Hogan. Same question.
Well, building on what Katie said, because I do think ultimately one of the most important qualities a judge has is listening to everyone that comes in the courtroom. But then when she went on kindness, because it shows respect, I do think it's essential that you show a respect to each of the cases that you have. And I think the way that you show that respect is making sure that everyone is listening to both sides and treating them in the same way that they would wish to be treated. And so I think jurors frequently get their cues both from the attorneys and from the judge. If the judge or the attorney start acting like it's not that big of a deal or it's not that big of a case, then I think that sends secret messages, or the jurors think that it does. And so I think it's essential that we show respect to every single case by acting professional and nice to everyone that comes into the courtroom.
Thank you very much. Judge Llewellyn?
So I will echo the sentiment of both Judge Fowler and Judge Hogan. I try to lead by example. So what I do in my courtroom is what I expect of the litigants. So my first thing is, just like Judge Fowler says, patience. And I try to be patient and listen and give everyone the opportunity to be heard. The other thing I ask and what I do is I'm courteous to everyone. I try to make sure everyone gets an opportunity to speak and the other side listens. And I'm respectful of the people in the courtroom, so they respect each other as well. So that by the time we're done, I try to render a decision that's fair. And so that since everyone has had the opportunity to speak and express themselves, that they will also see, or at least accept and consider, that my decisions are being made fairly.
Thank you very much. We're going to turn to another question. And we're going to start with you this time, Judge Perkins. And the question is, what is the most difficult part of your job?
Well, as I said during my introduction, I am in the division during a very, very stressful time in our country history and the world history. The cases that I hear are generally about money. I'm in a civil division, but it's about money, but it's more than money. When you have landlords who are not getting paid rents, so their livelihood, their ability to support their families is at issue. And then you have to deal with the defendants, which are generally tenants, who are being faced with eviction during the middle of a pandemic. So I believe that some of the most important qualities are patience, respect for the parties, kindness, and empathy. I try to steer both parties to try to understand the position that the other person is in. I try to let landlords know that, look, you're dealing with an eviction in the middle of a pandemic. You got to understand how these people are facing, and then for the other side,
Okay, thank you. Judge Royden.
Well, the toughest part of my job currently is working in the arena of domestic violence, which I had an 18-year career of in my private practice. It became a very high priority for me when COVID hit to remain accessible to the public in my division. We started a remote application process for victims of domestic violence coupled with a remote hearing process. It's an area of the law where being in touch with one another physically, I think is important to see the visceral responses of a victim of abuse while challenging her abuser in court touches the heart. And to now have to sit on the side of a screen and not have that type of human-to-human contact is certainly the toughest part of my current docket assignment.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Wright. Judge Wright, you need to unmute yourself.
On it.
There you go.
I think what's most difficult is making sure that as these different cases come before you, that you can impress upon the litigants and the individuals and the citizens behind those litigants that you're able to give them your undivided attention. And you can practice very hard to make sure that you get this done day in and day out. But it's important for somebody who, especially when you're talking about the individuals whose cases, the lives this affects, that they understand, because they see things that are very busy and happening right and left. So I think as Judge Fowler stated, patience is key to make sure that you express to everybody and show everyone how important their individual case is. And I know sometimes, even as an attorney, somebody'd say, I know my case isn't important, but, and I always like to stop them very quickly and say, no, absolutely, your case is important. And I think getting that point across to the people is most important and can be most difficult. And that's why patience and, as Judge Fowler said, kindness is so important.
Okay, thank you very much. Another round of questions, and we're going to start with you, Judge Boyer. What is the most important thing you've learned about our community in your job?
Well, you know, St. Louis, I've lived here for a long time. I've been a resident of the city for 21 years, and I've lived in the region my whole life. And I've worked for the city for the past 13 years. It's a diverse community. It is a strong community. It's a community of neighborhoods and people who all have different interests and who all have different opinions. And what you need to realize is that everybody is going to have those interests and opinions, and it's our job to make sure that everybody has a place in the courthouse to come when they have a dispute, to have their rights heard. We've talked about respect and kindness and empathy and everything else. Our job is to make sure that whatever journey a litigant took, whatever background they're from, as part of this city, when they get to the courtroom and they have a dispute, that they get their day in court, that all of us take it seriously, we act with proper decorum, and we get to a fair and just result. And in a city as interesting and as diverse as ours, that's always very important.
Thank you very much. Judge Colonna, what have you learned about the St. Louis City community in your job? You want to unmute yourself?
Sorry, I'm technologically not very good. I would almost say it's what's been confirmed, and that is to continue to have faith in people. Again, I haven't even been a judge for a year yet, and I'm in a bulk criminal division. We see a lot of scary stuff. But when push comes to shove, the amount of dedication to the system that people have, even defendants, a couple months into it, with a lawyer or without a lawyer, they'll take responsibility for what's happened. And if they didn't do it, my goodness, they want a trial as soon as possible, and we try to accommodate that. But just the way that even in our adversarial system, that people can work to try and come to, in quotation marks, just outcome, it's really heartening to know that people do have faith in the system and that they do want to have their fair day, and that I hope we give it to them.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Dowd, what about you?
Well, I agree that I think the citizens of St. Louis are invested in this city. They're committed to have a city that continues to grow. You see the city of St. Louis flags flying outside of houses. And I think they also, while they show up as jurors, they show up as victims and tell their story to the court. They also, I think, do love to see the judges making a contribution back to the community, which I think is part of our responsibility to give back to the community as a special position and role as a judge, and put something back in the pot. But I think that the only thing that the city of St. Louis is missing is a soccer team, and that's coming soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Speaking of our relationships with the community, here's the next question, and we're going to start with you, Judge Fowler. How can we increase our citizens' trust in the judicial system, and particularly in the 22nd Circuit?
I think that's a great question. I think that I can speak to the fact that my colleagues, all of my colleagues are working, we work on that on a daily basis, and that we look for the transparency in the way that we handle the cases, the way that cases are assigned, the way that cases are decided. So I think, you know, the cornerstone of this is integrity. So it's judicial decisions that rely on integrity and apply the law. And so we do that in our own courtroom every day. And I think then as a circuit, as we adopt measures, we do that together. I also think the other way we do it is exactly what Judge Dowd said. It's we get out into the community and we show the community that we do deeply care about them. I know that, you know, all of us are involved in our own causes in the community, and I'm working with some of my colleagues on causes now. We want them to we want the community to know that this isn't just our job, that this is something we truly care about, and that you should trust us because we care about you as human beings.
Thank you. Judge Hogan, same question. You want to add to that?
I would like to add to it. I think I absolutely agree that we should be out in the community more, not only speaking for ourselves, but what comes to my mind immediately is a program called the Police Partnership Program. And as we all know, good news doesn't sell newspapers, and so frequently we don't hear about those things. But the Police Partnership Program started probably 5 years ago, and it pairs high-risk defendants with 3 or 2 detectives in the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department that were raised in North City in high crime areas. They work not only with the defendant and a probation officer, but with the entire family, which I believe does help to build trust. We're all aware of the breakdown in trust between the community and the police, and then that reflects and falls back to judges. And so I think if we did get in the community more and made the public aware of these many programs, it would be helpful for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Question now, and we're going to start with you, Judge Perkins. What would you say has been the most important skill that you have in doing your job well? You want to unmute yourself, Judge Perkins?
Yes, ma'am. I was looking for the button. I'm sorry. I think one of the most important things is that I try to let people know that I am human. I am part of this community. I am from the community. I empathize with them in many, many ways. And I will want to make sure that I give them a full and fair opportunity to tell me whatever it is they'd like me to know so that I can consider it and try to make the best decision as possible based on the evidence and the law. But like one of my colleagues said earlier, sometimes people are not happy with the results, but at least they can go away feeling that you took them seriously and you gave them an opportunity to be heard and that you made your decision as fairly as you possibly could.
Okay, Judge Roither.
There we go. So I think one of the biggest things I bring is I grew up in a household where hard work was expected of us. I didn't come from a family of means, and my parents worked very hard to put all of their children through parochial school and a top public high school. And as a result, I work hard to honor my parents' commitment to me as a child, and I work hard so that my children can see from me that rolling up your sleeves and getting down to business is how things get done. And what that translates to for the community is at the end of the day, when you take this job seriously and work hard, this serious position of public trust is really honored through those efforts. And in my book, it's the height of public trust to be put in a position where you're allowed to serve the public. And I'm thankful every day that I'm in this position. Every day I walk into my chambers, I work as hard as I possibly can at discharging those public services.
Thank you. And Judge Wright.
I think, like Judge Roither, I hadn't really thought about it until he said so. My brother and I were always, I'd like to say encouraged, but forced to make sure we work 2 or 3 jobs, probably to keep us out of trouble. But that slowly does build in an idea that that's the way to perform. I think though, and we've said this many times, but it's worth repeating, I've always been a patient person. So the patience to make sure that I fully understand something. And I think going along with that is being unafraid to ask for clarification or to admit if I've misunderstood something. One of the worst things someone can do is to jump to a conclusion, be afraid to back off of it. And I believe that the litigants, when they leave the courtroom, know that I have fully understood what their position was, and therefore they're going to be more satisfied with whatever the outcome might be. I'm not omniscient.
Okay, thank you very much. We've got one more quick round of questions since we're going to 8:10. And we're going to start with you, Judge Boyer. And that is, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
Well, it's sort of a hard question to answer because I like to think more what's not the most rewarding part of this job. I mean, as I said in my introduction, this was my dream job. This is what I wanted to do. To wake up every morning knowing that I get to serve the residents of the city of St. Louis, a city that I live in, a city that I love, that I get to go to the courthouse and take the bench and try to do everything I can to make sure that justice is done, to do everything I can to make sure that people who have issues and have to go to court to get them decided come to a place that's fair, a place that's inviting, a place that's open. That's a privilege. It's an honor and a privilege to have this job. So it's hard to say that any one thing is the best part of having the job as much as the job as a whole is truly an honor. And when I go in every day, I get to take the bench and I get to serve my community. It's just about the most rewarding thing that I can imagine doing.
Okay, how about you, Judge Coloni? You want to add to that?
Just real briefly, it's doing whatever I can to try to find people that their third branch of government really does work for them. That if you're a victim and you come into the courthouse, you're going to get a fair shake. We're going to listen to you. If you've been charged with a crime, you're going to get a fair shake. We're going to listen to you. I want to hear your story. If you're a prosecutor, because again, that's all I've been doing these past 11 months is a criminal docket. If you're a prosecutor, we're going to give you time and opportunity to make your case. But I think to go back to a topic that a lot of my colleagues have discussed, when people leave the courthouse, even if they don't agree with what the outcome has been, my goal is to make sure that they feel like they've really gotten a fair shake. People listen to them and they come away knowing that their courts really do work for them.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Judge Dowd, would you like to add anything to that?
What I find most gratifying is just the working hard every day at trying to do justice. Thinking that I've made a contribution to the justice system by working hard, by listening, by staying up on the law. And that is gratifying, making a contribution to not only the justice system, but to my community in whatever way I can is justifying, is gratifying. I think a quick example, when someone who you rule against thanks you for listening and being fair, and they go away with a sense that they've had their day in court, that's very gratifying.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Fowler, different question. How can the courts help those who've been sentenced or had a ruling against them rebuild their lives? How can you help?
Well, I think that's a great question. And my work with Let's Start, that's what we did, is we help people who had convictions. So I do have some insight on how you help them go about this. But one of the great privileges of this job is the opportunity to have a forum to bring people together to work on these issues. So one of the things that I've had the opportunity to do with some of my colleagues, including Judge Dowd, is a cross-discipline commission on gun violence. And what we're trying to do is solve the gun violence epidemic in the city of St. Louis. And one of the thoughts on this, we're doing it with doctors from WashU, we're doing it with the School of Public Health at WashU, the Brown School at WashU, Barnes Jewish Hospital representatives. And one of the ideas is a community resource center in the courthouse. So this is what right now we're in the process of researching this and trying to find funding to do it. But we're hoping that we're going to catch community members in the courthouse who have needs, who we can help them meet their needs, connect them with resources for housing, education, food, all of those things.
Thank you very much. Judge Hogan, would you like to add anything to that?
I will actually build on that. I think one of the benefits that sometimes we're able to set up meetings by using the name judge when we make a phone call. And so we do know a lot of the different groups in the community that can help lots of people. Myself, Judge Llewellyn, and Judge Stovall Reed worked very closely with women in transition. We're aware of I would say, a mental health crisis. And so we met with the Department of Mental Health to see if they could try to get some services in the courthouse immediately, not only for the clients that are being served by the mental health services, but the family members who don't know how to access or get an appointment or a BJC or Hopewell or a ride or any of those number of things. And so I do think that we can be instrumental. The more we can set up in the courthouse to connect other people, whether it's after sentence or pre-sentence, I think that's what helps, that the people then only return to the courtroom for positive reasons.
Thank you. Judge Llewellyn, can you add to that?
I'll just echo what Judge Hogan and Judge Fowler said, and just add that one of the things that we can do is support the circuit attorneys on their diversion programs, have defendants who, for whatever reason, are now in the criminal justice system, get the opportunity to perhaps correct the behavior that caused them to be where they are. Another thing that we can do is, if we have defendants on probation, we can always follow up and make sure that whatever programs they are being referred to are programs that will in fact help them. And just plug for a last thing, it's probably sometimes expungement if we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's the last question for the last three of you. And we're going to start with you, Judge Perkins. And what is the greatest challenge you think that the judicial system faces? Just a small question.
Well, in the current state of our country, I think one of the greatest challenges that the judicial system faces is one that they have faced for many, many years, and that is mistrust in the system. Historically, there have been many people who felt that they were not given a fair opportunity or fair chance or treated fairly by the judicial system. And in a lot of cases, that is in fact the truth. I think we in the judiciary have to reflect the community. We have to, we must. We have to build trust. We have to be out there in the community, and we have to let people know that we are there to try to do the best job we can, and we will be fair without any predetermined outcomes. I think that is hugely important, and it is something that we must successfully accomplish for this country to move forward.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to add to that, Judge Reuter?
Yes, a big issue with me, and I think it is a challenge for the judicial system in general, is the access that impoverished people have to the courts. And Missouri in particular, the 22nd Circuit in particular, has done a remarkable job in the last decade of making courts much more accessible for people who don't have the means to hire legal counsel. We have an entire family law unit dedicated to assisting pro se litigants with filling out the appropriate paperwork, making sure that all the procedural steps that they would not know on their own are tackled so that their cases can be heard in a timely fashion. And it's not simply just a mirage that we get your case on file where it just languishes because you don't know the next step.
Okay, thank you very much. And finally, Judge Wright, you have the final word.
A lot of pressure. I think as a judicial system, we have to be adaptable with the changes. And again, we've said it many times, and again, it's worth repeating, patient and very deliberate in the decisions that we make. It's important that, that we don't appear rash or volatile from the bench, and that helps soothe the feelings and emotions of those before us. I think also as far as being adaptable, the way that we handle specifically criminal cases is changing all the time. You know, the last judge school we went to, there was a lot more focus on treatment courts, which have been flourishing because they've been very successful. And then you have something like we've had this last year when all of a sudden, all of the community progress with regard to treatment is no longer available until this passes. And we have to adapt to that and find something. We can't leave people just by the wayside. It's something that we have to do to continually put forth the proper face that shows that we're part of the community.
Okay, thank you very much. And it is exactly 8:10. And I think that we all showed what works when you have respect and practice kindness, all of us here. I've learned a tremendous amount during this, and I have a lot more faith in the job that I like to do, which is to be a juror. And I want to thank you very much for participating. And for those of you in the public who may be tuning out, if you want to find out more about these judges, the League of Women Voters in St. Louis Post-Dispatch Voters Guide, which is vote411.org. You can connect there and you can click on these judges, and it connects you to the Missouri Bar Association with more information about them. It's your job to get prepared to vote. We want informed voters, and thank you very much for participating. We're going to take about a 30-second break and then go to our next 9 judges. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to
Thank
stay
you.
or you can leave.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's make sure everybody is here. Here I am, the professor calling the roll. Judge Colbert Botchway, I think you're here. Judge White, Judge Stelzer, I'm sorry. Judge Connolly, Judge Omer, I think I saw you. Judge Milliken, you're here. I don't see Judge Milliken. Well, we'll hope he joins us. Judge Stovall Reed, I think I saw you. You hung in there the whole time. Judge Higgins, thank you for coming in after teaching school, I understand. Judge McCarthy, did I skip anybody? Okay. I'm looking at our participants and I think a lot of them have hung in there for the entire time. So I'm not going to repeat all the introductory material, but we're going to go right to the program. Each of the judges is going to have a 2-minute introductory statement, and then we're going to follow those statements with a series of questions posed to them in which they will answer in 1 minute. So with no further ado, let's start with Judge Colbert. Botchway, Your Honor.
Good evening. Thank you for the invitation to present to the League of Women Voters and everyone else who is tuning in. I appreciate all the work you all have done in the community for all the years, over 100 years. And I also appreciate the vote of confidence I received in 2016 when I was last retained after being appointed in July of 2015. I have been on the bench for 5 years. I am an associate circuit judge and I have rotated through the criminal jury trial division, the civil jury trial division, the criminal bulk division, and I currently serve in the civil bulk division. This is my second year in Division 28. My first year in Division 28 is much different than this year because of the COVID pandemic. And I would just like to say that my continued education with the National Judicial College and leadership training really prepared me, and as many of the other judges, to lead through a time of crisis. I've taken the opportunity to brush up on my technology skills, and I've had my virtual courtroom up and running since the end of March, first with attorneys, and then opened it up to the public and all participants in May. I was a prosecutor for 7 years and then served as an assistant attorney general and unit leader for 10 years at the Missouri Attorney General's office, representing the Department of Social Services in 32 counties across the state. I love Missouri. I love St. Louis. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of St. Louis, growing up in the O'Fallon Park neighborhood of North St. Louis. And then I transitioned with my family and my parents to the Central West End in 2009. And what I have learned is we all love St. Louis and we all appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judge White, Your Honor.
Good evening. I'm glad to have the opportunity to be here. My name is Joe White. I'm a circuit judge in Division 14, hearing family law matters, custody, divorce, paternity, that sort of thing. I live in the Fox Park neighborhood with my wife, Cheryl, who is a nurse. We have 4 grown children, and we welcomed our first grandchild over the summer. I grew up one of 9 kids. When I was a kid, I caddied. I ended up going to Mizzou on a caddy scholarship. After college, I worked as a deckhand on towboats on the Kaskaskia, Mississippi, and Ohio rivers. I also worked in sales. Then I went to law school. My first job out of law school was as an assistant attorney general in Jefferson City. Then I spent almost 26 years in private practice. I handled a wide variety of legal matters during that time. It was mostly litigation and mostly personal injury litigation. I did that on behalf of both plaintiffs and defendants. For the better part of the last decade in private practice, I represented people suffering from asbestos-related diseases and their families, and I've been proud to serve as a circuit judge since May of 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge Stelzer, Your Honor.
Okay, I want to thank you, like everybody else, for giving us this opportunity to address the public. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for not only us, but for those citizens in the city that are interested in learning a little bit more about our bench. I have been a judge for almost 17 years. I was appointed as an associate circuit judge in 2004 by Governor Hogan. I worked in that capacity for 8.5 years. I cycled through all 7 of the divisions: family, civil, criminal, jury trial, bench trial divisions as an associate circuit judge. In 2012, I was elevated to the circuit bench by Governor Nixon. So I have been a circuit judge for a little over 8 years. In that time, I have cycled through family court, where I heard contested divorces, paternities, child support. I've been in a general trial division where I heard numerous felony and civil jury trials. I've had approximately 125 jury trials as a judge. I spent 2 years in 2018 and 2019 in the motion equity division. So I'm handling a daily docket of civil motions, including motions to dismiss, discovery disputes, things of that nature, along with equitable actions, including temporary restraining orders and injunctions, some of them involving city officials and issues like that. This year I'm back in the general trial division. So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot going on in the general trial divisions as far as jurors go. I am a lifelong resident of the city, raised my 3 children here. My wife is also a lifelong resident of the city. My first job after I graduated from St. Louis University was a clerk at the Court of Appeals. Worked in private practice at a small civil firm, and then I worked at the city law department for about 10 years before I was appointed to the bench. I really, and I'm done. The stop sign is up. Okay.
You are done. Thank you so very much. Judge Connolly, Your Honor.
Good evening, everybody. I know we're all very grateful to be here. Thank you for hosting, and hopefully this provides some insight for people that had questions about the judges and our bench. My name is Madeline Connolly. I was appointed as an associate circuit court judge in March of 2018 and was in that capacity for about a year, and then was appointed in June of 2019 on the circuit bench. Before I became a judge, I worked in private practice. I, kind of like Judge Wright, I represented individuals in asbestos cases and other complex litigation. And I also worked for about 5 years at the circuit attorney's office, where I jury tried at least 40 jury trials, first chair, and dozens more second chair and bench trials. And so that is kind of the bulk of my experience. I'm from St. Louis City. I've lived in the same zip code my entire life, although I've moved around it a little bit. My husband's a lawyer, and we have a 1-year-old who is just running the house right now during the pandemic. So it's been an exciting time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judge Omer, Your Honor. You want to unmute yourself?
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, and I appreciate very much the opportunity here in this forum. This is a great service to us all. I have been a judge for a while. I was appointed first by the late Governor Mel Carnahan as an associate circuit judge, and I went through all the assignments in that capacity, and then was fortunate enough to be appointed again by the late Governor Carnahan to the circuit bench. And since I've been on the circuit bench, I've covered every assignment and really every type of case that we could hear since that appointment through both the associate and circuit. I've been on the bench here 26 years, and it's been an honor and a privilege and a humbling experience every day. I've, again, handled every type of case during my tenure. Right now I'm in the juvenile court, and I've been there for a year and a half. which has its own challenges. But through my career, I've handled in practice as a lawyer and as on the bench, somewhere in the area of 1,000 jury trials. And I've always enjoyed and loved working with the public and the jurors. And hardest cases to deal with are cases of sentencing individuals, what is appropriate for the community and for the individual, and any case involving children, because you realize you're making a decision that's going to affect them the rest of their life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judge Milliken, Your Honor.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Can everybody hear me okay? You'll notice that my name appears to say Madeline Connolly, and that's because I did not receive the email invite. So this is Scott Milliken and not Madeline. You can see there's two Madelines. So I am currently in the circuit division, general trial division. So I hear criminal and civil cases. I have been an associate circuit judge as well. I heard some family law cases in the bulk civil docket. I've been a city resident since 1993, married to my wife Liz, who is the alumni director at Narix Hall High School, and we have 3 kids, all raised here in the city of St. Louis.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Stovall Reed, Your Honor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. I really appreciate the League of Women Voters giving us the opportunity to kind of let the voters know who are these judges, because people say to me all the time, how are we supposed to know who you all are? Your names are on the ballot. We don't know anything about you. I've been in St. Louis since law school. I came here in 1987 to attend Washington University. I lost kind of a late start for me. I initially worked as an insurance person, and I decided after serving jury duty that I was excited about the law and I wanted to apply to law school, and so I did. I kind of changed everything around for me. And I've been in St. Louis, like I said, since 1987, met my husband here. We got married in 1990, so I have 2 grown children now. And I worked at the public defender's office after graduating from law school. Then I worked at the circuit attorney's office, then in private practice. And then right before coming on the bench, I was with the St. Louis Housing Authority. I had been an associate for about 16 years. And then I was just appointed a circuit judge in April of 2019. So I've been a circuit judge for about a year now. I'm in a general trial division. And as everyone else said, doing civil and criminal. I think my time is up. I saw the sign.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Higgins, Your Honor.
Thank you. I, like everyone else, would like to thank the League of Women Voters for providing this forum for us. And I am one of the newer associate judges. I was appointed last July of 2019. Before I was appointed, I was an associate city councilor for the city of St. Louis. I worked for the city for 23 years. The last 7 of those years I was the municipal prosecutor for the city of St. Louis. I am a lifelong St. Louis City resident. Grew up in the neighborhood of what's called Jeff Vanderloo, a proud graduate of Metro High School. I met my wife here in St. Louis. She is from Kansas City, so she's very happy about the Chiefs. We have a son who attends McKinley High, and he's 13, so we're very proud of him. A little bit of my educational background. I went to Mizzou undergraduate for journalism and was fortunate to go to Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa for law school. I came back home and I was a law clerk for Judge David Nose, federal magistrate. I worked for 3 years for State Farm Insurance Company. And then in 1996, I started working for the city of St. Louis. So again, I'm just happy to be here and participate in this forum. So thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Judge McCarthy, Your Honor.
Hey, thank you, everybody. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for having us as colleagues. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone tonight. A little bit about myself. My name is Tom McCarthy. I am a lifelong St. Louis City resident. I grew up in the Princeton Heights neighborhood. I went to SLU High School, Truman State University, and then back to SLU Law School. I graduated in the top of my class and went to work in private practice for a few years. I left private practice after about 3 or 4 years to go to public service to get trial experience. And I was a St. Louis County prosecutor for 7 years. I left there and became a St. Louis City councilor. And in those two positions, I tried over 25 cases. And really, that's where I really became a real lawyer, I feel like, is in the courtroom in those cases. I am currently in Division 24/29. We combined 2 divisions from last year. I'm an associate circuit judge. I do the associate criminal jury trials, associate criminal civil trials, trial de novos for both landlord-tenant cases and city municipal cases, as well as land sales tax cases. And I'm looking forward to going to family law next year in my rotation. I wanted to give a quick example. I didn't know this at the time, but when of the nonpartisan plan and how well I think it works. When I became a judge, I was moving my stuff into the building, and my dad was helping me. And I didn't know this, but he told me my grandfather, his father, who had passed away when I was about 5, was a janitor in the building. So I saw how proud he was helping me move in, because he told me how he used to go there with his dad, and he knew the building better than I did. And I could see how proud he was. So that's a good example of how our nonpartisan plan in Missouri really does work, I believe, and it's worked for me. And I'm happy to serve the citizens of St. Louis in my capacity as a judge.
Thank you very much. We're now going to, I just wanted to say one quick thing before we go to questions. Mr. Gross explained very well the nonpartisan court plan. Many of you may not know that the League of Women Voters was one of the major advocates when that plan was formed. And as a matter of fact, we served on the commission for years. Leah Cohen is somebody that some of you may know. She did that for a number of years, but we were one of the major forces in making that happen. And we're very proud of that. So let's go to questions now. And we're going to start with you, Judge Colbert Botchway. How has COVID changed what used to be a daily schedule for you? How have things changed?
Well, for me, I am in Division 28, which is a civil bulk division. Judge Perkins discussed Division 27 earlier. They are pretty much mirrored division. So we handle the landlord-tenant docket, pro se and with attorneys. We handle consumer debt cases. I handle small claims matters and bench trials in the afternoon. So for the last 2 weeks of March, when the pandemic was announced, we were on a hiatus. After that, I opened up my virtual courtroom in April, and we've handled everything virtually. So I still have between 120 to 150 cases on my docket every morning. And then I have bench trials in the afternoon. We have taken a lot of time to make sure that individuals have access through the court. We've sent several rounds of notices to individuals, and my virtual courtroom is open to the public. I've taken time to put all of the instructions on my website, so if individuals are interested, we do have a 22nd Judicial Circuit webpage Within the web page is a link to each judge's
Thank you.
courtroom.
Thank you very, very much. Judge White, you want to add to that or talk about your unique schedule?
Well, from my perspective, we've sort of changed from a place where people come to get justice to a place that meets people where they are through the use of the technology, and we sort of go to them now. Obviously, this isn't unique to the courts. Everyone is working remotely, but it's been a challenge for the courts because of the way that we serve people as a dispute resolving, fact finding, truth determining institution. In family court, we don't have juries to worry about, so we can keep serving people who need those disputes resolved in just about any way that they need us to do so. It's a little bit more difficult to decide who you believe when you're doing it remotely, but it isn't impossible, and we've been doing that. We're open for business.
Thank you very much. Judge Stelzer.
Same question.
Yes, sir.
So I think COVID, when you're in a jury trial division, your daily routine has changed tremendously because we have not had a jury trial since about March, I think. However, what we have been doing, we have what are called individual criminalized dockets. So each general trial division has their own grouping of criminal cases. So it took a little while to get going, but we are doing a lot of status conferences. We've actually done a number of guilty pleas and things like that remotely. So we are actually able to get some business done, even in the jury trial divisions. It's just we have not been able to sort of come up with the case that we think will fit in our courtroom with jurors at this time. So it is definitely changed the daily routine in our jury trial divisions, no question about it. But technology has helped us tremendously. I know I've grown light years in my use of technology. My wife is sort of surprised that I can do what I'm doing.
Well, I'm glad. So we're going to go to a second question, or we're going to start with you, Judge Connolly. And I'm repeating this question from the last segment because I think it's so important. So many people say, I don't want to serve on a jury. Why am I called in St. Louis so much? Can you tell them the unique, important role that jurors play?
I can, and funny because I think both my parents who are listening, they both asked if I can get them out of jury duty, and I was very firm with them that I cannot. So, you know, obviously jury duty, the most important function that we have in our judicial system. If we didn't have jurors coming in that we do on a weekly basis or 2 times a week that we have now, criminal defendants would not get a fair trial. The state of Missouri would not have a fair trial. And I am continually surprised and impressed by the amount of jurors that show up every week. And I think it's safe to say that we always have enough jurors each week to try the cases that we need to try. So obviously, the defendants and the state of Missouri wouldn't have an opportunity to have their voices heard if we didn't have the jurors.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge Omer.
Yes. Well, jury service is the backbone of our justice system. I've always emphasized that. People grumble about having to serve on a jury, and you know, why do I have to go down there? It's just a pain and a bother, inconvenience. And my response is that is what our system of justice is all about. It's what changes us from everybody else. I have law students from time to time from WashU with international students. They're always amazed the power we give to jurors. But and juror service and voting are the key duties that our citizens have. And without them serving and without voting, we're going to get the decisions we deserve.
Okay, thank you. Judge Milliken, do you have something to add to that?
I think they've covered it. The only thing I would add is that I think it's important as judges, particularly in jury trial divisions, to emphasize to jury panels when we speak to them how important they are to the system. I think it's important to encourage them for the next time that they're called, that they want to serve and need to serve. So that's the only thing I would add to that.
Okay, I appreciate that. We're going to go to another question. We're going to start with you, Judge Stovall-Reed. What is the most important thing that a judge can do to have a positive culture in their courtroom?
I think, to me, the most important thing for the judge to do is to treat everybody with respect and to be an excellent listener. I think if you as the judge are treating people respectfully, then the people in the courtroom, the attorneys and the litigants, will tend to follow suit. And then if you listen to people, because after all, the whole point of our system is to give people a fair opportunity to be heard. So if you listen to people, then they walk away feeling like they've had a fair hearing or trial, so to speak. And that's the most important thing to me. I want everybody to feel like they've had a fair opportunity to be heard when they come into my courtroom.
Thank you. Judge Higgins.
I would add on that, judges, I believe, need to be respectful as well of everyone's time, not only of attorneys' time, but litigants, pro se parties. Everyone feels that their time is worth something. And I think it's important for judges to start court on time, to come out on time, do everything as much as they can in a timely manner. I think it shows respect for the parties that are there. And I also think that there's nothing wrong with a judge to come out, have a cheerful disposition, smile at people, radiate being positive. I think people are so prone to thinking that judges are serious, which we are doing serious things, but it doesn't take much for someone to just shoot a smile to someone and just stay positive.
Okay, thank you very much. And Judge McCarthy, what would you add to that? You want to unmute?
I would just like to add that I agree with Judge Stovall-Reed and Judge Higgins with both the respect that you give is the respect that you get back in the courtroom, as well as being welcoming to people and not being intimidating. As associate circuit judge, we deal with a lot of pro se people. And you have to balance between not intimidating them. This courtroom is their courtroom and they're welcome to be there. But at the same time, you have to be authoritative without being an intimidating person either. So that's why I agree with Judge Higgins. It's okay to have a smile on your face and have small talk at times, as long as you know that there's a time to be serious and a time to take order of the court. And balancing those two is the art of being a judge that I think we're all still learning every day.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go back to you, Judge Colbert Botchway, and a different kind of question. What is the most difficult part of your job?
Thank you. During this time when we're in an international crisis and pandemic, it's been challenging to make sure that everyone's due process rights and access to court are being protected. So in doing that and still having the court open for business and moving forward. So we are flexible. I am particularly flexible with giving people a continuance time if they need to reach out and speak to an attorney. And we have partnered with the Conflict Resolution Center to try to mediate most of our cases, especially the landlord-tenant cases, when you have CDC requirements, you have CARES Act protections, and you really have to balance the rights of the landlords with the concerns during the pandemic and the concern for this national housing crisis that we're on the brink of. And so being flexible and using mediation has been a wonderful tool. It's something that I started doing about 3 years ago, but it really has come in handy this year during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge White.
Well, I suppose one thing that I've learned being in the family court this year is it's more difficult from the standpoint that when I was in a general trial division hearing felony criminal cases and larger civil cases, I had the jury doing sort of the heavy lifting for me. The jury decided what the facts were. The jury decided whose side of the story to believe. Now, I have to do that myself. And I think, part of my makeup is I'm inclined to think that generally speaking, people are telling the truth, or at least telling their version of the truth. And so it is difficult for me anyway to decide who it is that I believe. And I don't have some magic truth detector. I just find myself doing that by what version of the facts seems to make the most sense to me, given the circumstances of the case.
Hey, thank you. Judge Stelzer.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways of looking at this. I think as far as what do I find most difficult in the present, it's definitely dealing with the COVID issues and how to keep these criminal dockets trying to move forward as little as we can without having jurors in the building, and that is a real challenge. The defendants have their due process right to a speedy trial, and so we are constantly trying to measure that with do we want to be the building where the next hotspot of COVID outbreaks come from? And so we have to be very, very careful in trying to balance those. And that is an art form. That is not a science. And we're still trying to figure it out. I think in overall, probably sentencing decisions can be very, very difficult. You get a lot of information from both sides, and you are the one. There's nobody else that's going to make that decision. Not the prosecutor, not the defense lawyer, not the family members of the victim, not the family members of the defendant. You are it.
Thank you very much. Judge Conley, same question.
Well, Judge Stelzer just summarized very well what I would have said. I think to give a different answer, another struggle that I've had being newer to the bench is trying to balance being personable on the bench, but making sure you also get respect. And I think it's difficult for all judges. I think it's particularly difficult for women and maybe even younger women to make sure that you are treated with respect in the courtroom, but also being respectful to everybody in the courtroom. So that has been a balance that I've been learning how to strike since I've been on the bench.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have two judges answer the next question. And we're going to start with Judge Ulmer. And here's the question. What can all of you do to increase the community's understanding of what goes on in the 22nd Circuit and increase their trust? What can you do to increase their understanding and trust?
Well, through the years, we have had a public education committee that has been instrumental in reaching out to the community, to schools, to neighborhood groups, different organizations, to go out and speak and talk to the people about what goes on in the courts. Obviously, we can't talk about specific cases, but we can talk generally. And that to me has been very gratifying, the reception that we get. And it's like I said before, I love to interact with jurors because it's really the only time we have a chance to interact with the public to show that, we are just ordinary folks, but trying to do the best job that we can to dispense justice.
Okay, thank you. Judge Milliken.
Well, I'm lucky to follow a veteran judge because I think he said it well. I think public education is crucial. I think we need to be in schools I think we need to be in schools all over the city, whether it's the north side, west side, south side. And so that's something I certainly want to continue to do and do more of. But that's, especially if we can get to younger people, the sooner we get to younger people, the better they're going to feel about seeing us and talking about the justice system.
Okay, thank you very much. New question. I sort of want to end with a very positive question, I hope. What is the most rewarding thing about your job that you've discovered? And we're going to start with Judge Stovall Reed. What's the most rewarding thing? I think you've got to unmute yourself.
Okay, sorry about that. The most rewarding thing for me is when people feel like they have had a fair hearing. So when people come in and show that they understand it's not something personal against them, the decisions are made on what is the law, you know, how that, because sometimes, you know, the law doesn't always seem fair for everybody. But if I can make people feel like they've been heard and I understand what their issues are and I understand that the law isn't necessarily giving them what they want, then it makes me feel like I've accomplished something when they walk away with that understanding.
Thank you very much. Judge Higgins, what's the most rewarding thing for you?
My current assignment right now is a criminal bulk assignment in Division 26. And I would say right now we have a fair number of pro se litigants that are on the criminal docket. And I think right now what I'm trying to do is give them the sense that the courts care about their cases. We're trying to get their cases moved. Like I said, we're trying to care about their cases, care about their time. And even during this COVID process, we've, at least myself, Judge Colonna, we've been trying to pride ourselves to kind of keep the engines running. We're still trying to process as many cases as we can. Some days he and I are putting in 8-hour days. And so I just think that, you know, it's most rewarding from that standpoint.
Thank you very much. And Judge McCarthy, what's most rewarding for you?
Most rewarding for me as an associate circuit judge is working with the pro se litigants, people that do not have attorneys. Personally, I'll take a pro se docket over a docket with attorneys any day. And as Judge Stovall Reed said, it's really having them, listening to them. And what I really enjoyed, it was most rewarding, is when you explain the law to them and they understand it. When I last year did a lot of, 2 years ago, did a lot of small claims cases. And those are my favorites. And when you rule against somebody, but they still say, thank you, I understand your decision. While they might not agree with it, they understand it. That is fully rewarding, that even though you ruled against somebody, they know that you're just doing your job and it's not personal, and the law is sometimes counterintuitive. So explaining the process and the law to pro se litigants and having them understand it and respect the process is been the most rewarding to me so far.
Okay. Thank you very much. And that ends my questions. We've got some concluding comments, and in keeping with what one of you said, it's important to respect people's time. I'm going to respect your time and get you out of here 2 minutes before 9. Thank you to all of you and all the judges and Mr. Gross this evening for participating. I don't know about you, but I have a much better understanding of the people who serve us in the 22nd Circuit Court and each of the judges who importantly are asking voters to make the important decision to retain them. And the voters do that. I'm grateful for the important role that you all play in bringing justice to our community. And again, you can find more information on all of your judges if you go to the Missouri Bar Association website, which is also linked to the League of Women Voters St. Louis Post-Dispatch Voters Guide, which is up online, and that is vote411.org. Now it's your turn. It's the public's turn. And let me just say that we're going to put this recording up on our website, and we're also making it available to Mr. Gross, who may be able to use it in different kinds of ways and make it available to the public through the 22nd Circuit Court. Our experience is that we have lots of people who come after the event and come look at that forum, and it helps them understand the 22nd Circuit and make their decisions. Again, it is your turn now, those of you who are watching. Be an informed voter on November the 3rd. Get on vote411.org to get information on your candidates, nonpartisan, fair, and balanced information. The statewide amendments, and there are 2 of them, and they are extremely important. And the local ballot issues, and there are 4 of them on the St. Louis city ballot that appear on your ballot. Make a plan to vote, because this year is different. Make sure that you have a plan if you are going to absentee vote. Make a plan if you are going to go to any of the 4 satellite absentee ballot polling places. This is a brand new thing in St. Louis City. They are going to be at 4 city libraries, and voting is going to start there on Monday and go through the day before the election. You can find the hours for those 4 libraries on our website and also on the Board of Election website. In these critical times, all of us need to defend democracy. And as one of the judges said, 2 duties that are so important. One is to vote, one is to serve as a juror. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.